So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, actually, it might be the afternoon. I am really privileged to have on our very, very first in FitFab 50 Plus, a doctor in the house. So, I'm really pleased to introduce Dr. Dan Trussler from Ancestral Health. Now, we're going to be talking about a few topics here, how to protect your immune system or how to influence your immune system, and we'll leave it to the doctor to go into the detail on that. But I'm absolutely delighted to, because going back to the mission of this group was to give you quality and clarity of health information when there's such an abundance of information out there. So I'm gonna let Dan introduce himself. So thank you very much for being here, Dan.
No, you're very welcome. I better just correct you because I don't have a doctor title.
Oh,
you probably saw that from a post
I did.
On my page, and that's when I travel over to the States and Canada. They use anybody that's qualified with an osteopathic or a chiropractic degree over in the States and Canada with a doctor title. But here in the UK, it's just medicalized. So yeah, that's just it's just it's a small thing, but yeah, no one in the UK. It's only the medical doctors that are allowed to call themselves doctors, whereas in Canada and the States, if you're a chiropractor, then you're also a doctor.
Thank you for that correction. Yeah,
no, it's okay. Just so I'm guessing your audience is going to be UK based, and not to cause any confusion. But thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
And so I'm a registered osteopath, but I'm also trained in functional medicine, which is a system of getting to the root cause of people's health challenges using lifestyle primarily, as well as nutrition, supplements where necessary, mindset. We kind of cover all the bases that can influence a person's vitality and health, and get them all working in the right order to move that person in the direction towards health. So we make it very clear to people that we don't treat any conditions. We just look to optimize individuals' health, and we've had some fantastic results in that. So my clinic is in Tiptree, and I should probably go back a little further than that, because
please do.
The reason why I do this work is because I suffered through my early 20s with eczema on my hands. I'd already had a childhood with asthma, a lot of allergies to horses, peanut allergy. So I was kind of on an overactive immune system, shall we say. And the eczema never got better. It still bugged me when I was at university. I had to put cotton gloves on to stop myself from scratching overnight, because my feet, particularly on my fingers, they'd weep and bleed and be pretty miserable. So
yeah, absolutely.
So when I was first introduced the idea that diet could have an effect on that, it took me a little while for that to sink in, to be honest. I'm a pretty open-minded guy, and but it's still quite a change. I was just the usual person having cereals and milk in the morning, and just thought, that's just what you had for breakfast.
Yeah.
So when I started to take cow's milk out and made a few other changes, and actually it started to have an effect.
Right.
And a lot of, there's never I tell people, often people are looking for a silver bullet, but it doesn't really happen like that with the health. The body is such a complex system of interrelated systems that you have an effect here and there, but it wasn't until many years of really dialing down and working on my digestive health that I managed to get to the point where I no longer suffer with any eczema. And even the allergies, to be honest, have significantly improved over the last 5 years after working with other people, and that motivated me to train and want to help others. So that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so how long have you been in business?
So the clinic here in Tiptree it'll be 3 years in July.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, I've been an osteopath a little bit longer than that. I graduated 7 years ago. I travelled a little bit in Australia and worked in a clinic out there. Yeah, it's our profession very much ties you to a location, because people come and see you, build up a reputation. So I wanted to go and explore the world a little bit before settling.
Yeah, brilliant. So you mentioned quite a few things there, that you can control yourself rather than with medication, because sometimes, like you said, people are looking for that silver bullet, that one answer that will solve probably a multiple. Is that what you do with your consultancy? You look and break down the habits that you have control over?
Yeah, we take a very in-depth health history of people. It can date right back to to your childhood. Antibiotic use from an early age completely obliterates the gut microbiome. The research now shows, and that has a long-lasting effect. Your body essentially takes a picture of your gut bugs. When I say microbiome, it's like the bacteria and yeast and beneficial and not so beneficial, the balance of those. There's a picture taken when you're about 2.5 years old, and the body feels like that's then the baseline that it's always trying to return to. So yeah, if you're exposed to antibiotics, if you're born through C-section, if you're not breastfed, those things have an effect on your microbiome, and therefore your immune system later in life.
Oh, really? That's interesting, because that's one of the questions I was going to ask you, what the impact of nutrition was as a child on the impact as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And it does, by the sounds of it, whatever you're putting in your system will have an impact.
Yeah, I feel like those first 7 years of a child's life are just so precious and important. Not just from a nutritional perspective as well. There's a lot of research that shows that if you're exposed to a high amount of stress in the environment, maybe your parents split up, or you're unfortunate enough to be in a war-torn country,
Sure.
or you're in a country that's put in suppressive measures where you don't get to leave your house. No, I'm joking. All those things also imprint your nervous system and can kind of basically lead you in a state of stress and what's known as fight or flight nervous system, where you're always in survival mode, and that can be primed from a young age.
Oh gosh, you said so. The first 7 years are, like you said, precious. So what about if you haven't had that opportunity for good nutrition, a stress-free childhood? Because we make light of this situation, but stuck in a house, particularly when the weather's nice. But is that it then? We've always caused this damage. Is there any hope for us later on?
Good question. I'm glad you brought that up, because no, it's not all doom and gloom. Basically, that then primes, particularly on an emotional level, on a nervous system level, your subconscious, which then drives a lot of your behavior. And if you're thinking that you probably had a childhood that might have been affected in this way, then it's a great time. It's an opportunity, if you can see it as an opportunity to maybe revisit some of the patterns that have cropped up in your life. Maybe why you've not been able to hold on to relationships, or you've had certain issues dealing with either people or jobs. Then you can then go and do different types of therapy that will help you realize where your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors arise from in childhood. Some people do even like childhood regression therapy, when you kind of really visualize moments that you can remember of your childhood. This is not my area of expertise. We've gone off on a little bit of a tangent. We actually outsource this to a mindset coach, because it's so important. Our program, while I'm working on people's physiology with their nutrition, sleep, digestion, supplements, we also have a mindset coach that we outsource this type of work to, because it's so important for a number of people that have had illness and sickness in their lives, particularly for a long time.
That's really really interesting for me to hear that, because I've always thought, since my health promotion degree, and I do put the emphasis, we've had a conversation about this, on the promotion side, so behavior, psychology, sociology, policy, that's what my degree was all about. But it was always the holistic view of things, which is nice to hear you say. I didn't even think about relationships and jobs in terms of what you're doing, and the gut health, but it was clear on your page that stress and anxiety, and it could be around job or relationship, does actually have an effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're getting to this kind of whole person, treating somebody as a whole person, you know, the mind, body, spirit. And the more work I do with people, the more I realize you just can't separate the three. And for whatever issue it is, you know, whether it's you know, a digestive issue that's ongoing, that can be rooted in stress from, you know, any time in history. And on the flip side of that, you know, somebody who's suffering what's considered a more psychological issue like anxiety or depression, same thing there again. I feel like just approaching that from a psychological perspective with talking therapy, counseling is again short-sighted in my opinion. I believe that you should also look at the physiological. You know, is your brain getting the right nutrition? Are you balancing your blood sugars so that your neurotransmitters and hormones stay balanced? So, you know, I feel like any issue, be it physical, psychological, you know, needs to have an all-rounded approach, and you know, that's our philosophy.
Yeah, and that came out loud and clear actually with the story on your page, that it was this client-centered, but this whole approach, this holistic view, because we don't operate in isolation, do we? It's not one thing that, like you said, the silver bullet doesn't happen in health. That's why it's so complex out there. Because of, and I do wonder sometimes why I set that page up, because there are everything is affected by health, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everything we do, our jobs, our lifestyle, our relationships, the food we eat. You're running a webinar tomorrow, I understand. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So because it's topical, we're going to cover how to take ownership and take control of your own immune system, and the things that you can be doing in this period of lockdown, so to speak, that can, you know, impact your immune system. So if you've had, you know, more than one or two infections in the past year or so, chest infections, urinary tract infections, ear infections, likelihood is that your immune system is compromised to some extent, and there's things that you could be doing to support that. So we're going to be going through that, and also I'm going to present a couple of case studies of how I've helped people in that situation turn their health around and be able to live life more fully.
Brilliant, yeah. And follow the rules, of course, because.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah,
of course. No, life will return to some normality, maybe. But big lessons are being learned at the moment. But yeah, so is there quite a lot that we can have control over to make a difference?
I certainly believe so. You know, my message is that health begins at home, and you know, our own health is very much in our own hands, and through applying principles that have stood the test of time, you know, in terms of that's why I named the clinic Ancestral Health. We take principles that our ancestors would have put in place. So for example, a real simple thing is intermittent fasting, you know, having an extended period overnight where you don't eat any food at all, aids your immune system. You know, and not many people know that. You know, they just get up and eat straight away. Whereas if you have a little bit longer in the morning and eat a little bit earlier in the evening, and that can have a huge effect. That's just one example. Another big one is artificial light. So back 180 years ago, before artificial light was invented, we would have been running our lives by the sunlight, and you know, after dark we wouldn't have had any light other than a fire exposing our eyes and our skin to, and then, you know, we would have gone to bed. But today's world, we've got light all around us, and that sends signals to our bodies and controls our biology. So
interesting.
Yeah, I hope none of your viewers. Well, it's interesting that, you know, shift work has just been made a possible carcinogenic by the World Health Organization, because when you disrupt that circadian biology so much, you know, the body finds it hard to function well.
Yeah, years ago I used to be working in the care industry. About 20 years ago, it was a long time ago, but I used to increase my salary, because it's quite a low paid job being a carer, I used to work an early shift, go home, get a couple of hours sleep, and then do a night shift, and then do a late shift the next day. So yeah, mentally not very good. Really, I felt like a zombie the next day, sort of walking around spaced out, like I had paranoia. But it really messed up, because when do you have your food at the same time as you normally do, like your breakfast and before you go to bed, and then lunch when you get up? It was just crazy. So yeah, I can understand how shift work.
Yeah, crazy on the outside for you, and then also crazy for your physiology on the inside. You know, your hormone and other balances within the body just won't know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So are our members invited, allowed to attend that webinar?
Yes, of course. It's a completely free webinar. So it'd be great to see people from your group come and register and join in. There's also, hopefully, there'll be a link sent out. In fact, I'll put that in the post.
Please do.
Of it's a questionnaire that you can take and bring with you on the webinar to assess your own immune system now.
Excellent.
So you can start to have a quantitative, you get a number basically on how much of your priority your immune system should be right now, given by the the symptoms that you've had over the last year or so. I'll post that below, and yeah, it'd be great to see people. As I said, it's completely free, and I just want to help people really feel more in control and help that feeling of calm that's so important at the moment, by knowing that you're taking steps to proactively improve your health.
Yeah, and people might be struggling to find good sources of food, because I think over the last week I've seen a little bit more calm in supermarkets, actually, a little bit more control put in place. And don't forget the local greengrocers, because they're still supplying, or restaurant people that supplied restaurants, they're supplying to the community now rather than restaurants, because they're shut their doors temporarily. So there is still a lot of fresh food. We've got an abundance of food here. We're not going to run out. They've assured us that. So there's still things that we can do, aren't there?
Yes, we're very fortunate to live in the time where food is abundant for us.
Yeah, good. Oh, thank you so much, Dan. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for correcting me on the doctor bit.
No, we probably should have said that beforehand. I didn't want to mislead anybody. So
I saw that. I thought I must introduce you as a doctor, but yeah, thanks for that. Thanks very much.
No, it's great. It's great to chat to you, Dawn. Thank you for inviting me on.